Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Here at Kentucky Lake, prepping for the start of the tournament. We got changing conditions, of course, just like we've had pretty much all year, everywhere we've gone. Regardless of whether or not you fish tournaments, I feel like we, as a country, have these major weather fronts that move through on a weekly basis. And if you're a fisherman, what that does is it just creates a lot of changing conditions that we have to deal with, you know, whether that's rising and falling water temperature, dirty and clearing water, current flow, a little bit of everything. It's one of those things that we really have to juggle to try to predict what is going to happen when we're on the water. And in this case, we've got a lot of changing stuff. We got a storm front that's passing through here probably in the next hour, potential for a lot of heavy rain. What's that going to do to current flow? What's that going to do to water color? A lot of questions out there. But one thing that I do really like to have in this situation is the deep dive app. So let's talk a little bit about the deep dive app and why I think it's so beneficial, especially to us touring anglers and tournament anglers that are really trying to predict what's going to happen in the future with potential weather that we've got coming through. So not only do we have potential for heavy rain, we're going to have sustained 30-mile-an-hour winds. So if I pull up my deep dive app, a couple of things I want to look at right off the bat for Kentucky Lake. So, you know, one thing that I like is to look at the first thing is the water level. So if I pull up the water level, we can see the water has actually come up almost a half a foot since yesterday, which I did not know until I pulled this up. That is pretty interesting to me. And it's rising really quick. So whether they're holding water to prepare for storms somewhere and sucking it out of potentially lakes that are south of here, because I think a lot of the rain is going south of here. So maybe they're trying to hold it here and they're dropping, say, Pickwick Lake, so they're sucking it out. The point is our water level has come up almost a half a foot since yesterday, and it does not look like it's stopping anytime soon. So the other thing I like to look at with respect to this is the current flow. I can pull up and see right now our current flow has dropped over the course of the week, and we're sitting right at about 100,000 cubic feet a second, which is pretty low, and that makes sense. They've dropped the water flow, which means they're letting less through the Kentucky Lake Dam, and they're rising the water up. So there's more water coming in that's going out. But as we know, if you're a river fisherman or you fish any place that's got current flow, the current really dictates what the fish are doing. So this will give me a good handle on what's actually occurring. But more importantly, what I really want to point out here are a couple of things. So if we pull up the water clarity, this will show what Kentucky Lake looks like. So if I go back a few days, so 2 weeks ago, Kentucky Lake was really muddy. That's when the rain all hit, and you can see it coming in the bottom end, and that mud really started to push up the lake. And you can just see the whole lake up until a week ago was pretty muddy. There were a couple of little isolated areas, but the lake for the most part was very, very muddy. Now if I go up to a couple of days ago, you can see how it's starting to clear up, especially on the east side of the lake. The west side is still pretty muddy because you got these major creek arms that are solid mud, and they're slowly feeding out into the river channel. And that's leading to the western shore being a little bit muddy. So as an angler, it's good to know where there is some clear water, where there is muddy water. But I also want to know how that could be impacted. So, you know, one thing I'm aware of is we're going to have really strong 30-mile-an-hour west winds. Well, west winds could be blowing a lot of that muddy water from the west side of the lake out of some of these major creek arms to the right side. So I'm going to be prepped for that come tournament time. I'll be aware that there could be areas that are going to be extremely muddy. Now, if I want to actually take a look at wind conditions, I can actually see what the wind effects are going to be, and this will actually let me look into the future as well. So today, very, very windy. You can see all of the red. It's blowing right up Kentucky Lake. The lake has got 3 and 4 footers on it. and it's only going to get worse. But I can actually move into the future and see how this is going to continue to change the rest of today. I can move forward and see that there will be tomorrow a shifting from a south wind to a west wind. So tomorrow around noon, we're going to have almost a straight west wind. And in this case, this same creek, the Blood River that I'm just using as an example, is going to have all that mud that's probably blowing across the lake to the eastern shore. So that's something that I can prep for and be somewhat aware of. Now come tournament time, so Thursday, you can see we're going to have that west wind that's going to be shifting to west, and then throughout the day it's going to drop and switch to the north, but it's not going to be a real strong wind. So it's possible that that current flow will actually move a lot of that mud north of where it's coming out of. So will it go directly across the lake, or will it actually go on more of a northeast direction? That's something that we'll wait and see. And then we can also cut to cut over to some of the other things. Like if I want to look at the stream flow function, if we do get a ton of rain like they're projecting, I can see which one of these creeks have much larger inflow. So if I click this creek right here, you can see it's only right now 1.8 cubic feet a second. It's a very stagnant creek. But I can also then go up to some of the bigger creeks and see, hey, which ones actually have more flow. This one's 2.8. So again, very little, but if we have a ton of rain, I can actually look to see which ones have impact from current flow coming in versus which ones actually don't have much. So when I look at let's say a creek like this one, there's a lot of different places it could be coming in the back, but there's also some short pockets that don't really have any water flow coming in. So there's going to be a ways to find clear water. Now, if it's a lot of rain over the course of several days, the whole thing might get muddy, but because we're getting the rain the day before the tournament, it's critical to know which ones might be clearer than not. And this happened at Sam Rayburn. I used the same function to find the clear water pockets versus the creek arms that were blown out from all the rain that we got the day before. So a lot of really good features here. Obviously, Deep Dives also has things like your tournament patterns and the best areas to fish. But for me, the ones that I'm really, really enjoying right now are the stream flow, the wind effects, and the water clarity. I use these on a daily basis. Very, very helpful. So hopefully this shows you a little bit how we can use this tool as tournament anglers, as recreational anglers, to catch a few extra fish, or at least put yourself in a position where you might not be fighting the elements that are coming to you based on water clarity or increased water. You can try to combat it, and hopefully puts you in a position to have a little bit more success than you might otherwise have in tough fishing conditions. But I thought this would be a really good example to show you, right now, how not only are we looking at the water flow, the water levels, the water clarity, and the wind, it's all coming into play in this case. So it'll be interesting to see how we get out there. I have a good idea as to what the water is going to look like when I get there, based on using the app's function versus showing up and being surprised and not knowing where to go. But I get a lot of questions regarding Deep Dive and whether I actually use it or not, and I 100% do use it on a very, very regular basis. So if you have any other questions about it, let me know in the comment section. Otherwise, if you found today's video helpful, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned, we'll have a new video coming out tomorrow.